At around 6 a.m. in Israel, a formation of fighter jets takes off, armed with long-range precision missiles. Intelligence from both the CIA and Israeli agencies suggests that a significant portion of Iran's leadership has gathered at a compound in Tehran. Among them is Ayatollah Ali, the country's supreme leader. Just over 2 hours later, Israeli missiles strike the compound. This marks the beginning of a coordinated series of U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, an operation that would dramatically escalate tensions and reshape the region. As with any developing situation, new details may emerge after this account is published. The conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran has deep historical roots. Until 1979, Iran was ruled by Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, an authoritarian monarch backed by the United States. That year, the Iranian Revolution overthrew his regime, bringing Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power and establishing the Islamic Republic. Khomeini sought to transform Iran into a state governed by Islamic law, abandoning the Shah's pro-Western policies. The United States and Israel were declared adversaries, with opposition to Israel becoming both a strategic and ideological priority. After Khomeini's death in 1989, Ali Khamenei rose to power, becoming a central figure in Iran's leadership. Over the years, tensions between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. repeatedly flared. Sanctions were imposed, and Iran became a key supporter of anti-Israeli groups in the region. In 2002, revelations emerged that Iran was enriching uranium at secret sites, raising fears that it could develop nuclear weapons. Iran denied these claims, but the U.S. and Israel undertook various efforts to halt the program, including cyber attacks, targeted assassinations, and diplomatic pressure. A major breakthrough came in 2015 when the Obama administration reached a nuclear agreement with Iran. However, in 2018, President Trump withdrew from the deal, reigniting tensions. By 2025, amid renewed negotiations, the situation escalated sharply. The U.S. and Israel launched airstrikes using bunker-buster bombs targeting key Iranian nuclear facilities. At the same time, Iran's economy deteriorated further, its currency collapsed, food prices surged, and public frustration grew. Mass protests erupted across the country, with demonstrators calling for the end of the Islamic Republic. The government responded with force, shutting down the internet and cracking down violently. Thousands were reportedly killed and tens of thousands arrested. Meanwhile, the U.S. increased its military presence in the region with repeated warnings directed at Iran. On February 26, a final diplomatic effort in Geneva failed. 2 days later, on February 28, events took a decisive turn. At around 9:40 a.m. in Tehran, a government compound housing offices of the presidency, the National Security Council, and the Supreme Leader became the focus of a major strike. Intelligence agencies had reportedly tracked the movements of key figures for months, identifying a rare moment when top officials were gathered in one place. Originally planned as a nighttime operation, the attack was launched earlier than expected, an opportunity deemed too critical to miss. Missiles struck the compound with devastating precision. Satellite imagery later revealed severe damage, with thick black smoke rising from the site. Reports indicate that Ayatollah Khamenei was killed, along with several high-ranking officials, including the Chief of Staff of Iran's armed forces, the defense minister, and senior commanders of the Revolutionary Guard. In total, around 30 senior officials were reportedly killed within moments. The operation, referred to as Roaring Lion in Israel and Epic Fury in the US, had been in planning for months. Iran's president Masoud Pezeshkian survived the strike. Officials quickly vowed retaliation and assured continuity of government. The attack on the leadership was only the first phase. Israel proceeded to target Iran's air defenses, particularly around Tehran, before launching a broader assault involving around 200 fighter jets. The objective was to destroy as many missile systems as possible in a short time. The United States joined shortly after, focusing on targets in eastern Iran and launching cruise missiles from warships. Ground forces also participated, striking military and command centers. Explosions were reported across multiple cities. Both Trump and Netanyahu publicly addressed the situation, urging the Iranian people to rise against their government. However, the consequences quickly expanded beyond military targets. An airstrike hit a girls' school near a naval base, reportedly killing at least 175 people, many believed to be children. These figures remain unverified.
Iran responded with Operation True Promise 4, launching large-scale retaliatory strikes across the region. Over 200 missiles were fired toward Israel alone, while attacks and drone strikes targeted multiple countries, including Iraq, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait, and Syria. Airports were damaged, oil facilities threatened, and civilian areas impacted. Regional tensions surged, and global concern intensified. Beyond the battlefield, the conflict triggered wider consequences. Oil prices rose sharply, driven by fears over disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route through which roughly 20% of the world's oil passes. Experts warned of a potential global energy crisis. The legality and justification of the conflict were also widely debated. Critics questioned whether the strikes were preemptive or unnecessary, raising concerns about international law and constitutional authority. Protests erupted worldwide, some opposing Iran's government, others condemning U.S. involvement. Inside Iran, reactions were divided. Some celebrated the death of the supreme leader, while others mourned. A provisional government was formed, and calls for retaliation continued. Casualty numbers remain uncertain. Reports suggest hundreds have been killed in Iran, along with fatalities across several countries. The human toll continues to rise. As the situation evolves, one thing is clear. This conflict is far from over. What began as a targeted strike has now grown into a complex and unpredictable crisis, one that could reshape the balance of power in the region and beyond.